What's going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday to you. Hope you all are having a good one. Welcome to Midnight Hatter Live, the weekly variety show where we talk Gundam, Gunpla, gaming, all kinds of good stuff. I am, of course, your host, Steven, aka Midnight Hatter, and joining me, as always, is amateur interior designer Adam Blue. How are you doing, my friend?
I am doing good. Yeah, amateur interior. I've had so much fun trying to reorganize this room. It's not done yet. It's completely different than it was before, but it has been the most fun for me. It's like, wow, I would love to just design office setups. But then I'm like, well, really only if it's my own. If it's other people's and they're like equipment's like, what is this camera? What is this mic? And
Right,
I
like,
don't know.
have you seen that? There's a clip from Trading Spaces that's going around on Instagram right now as like a meme, and it was this lady who had her entire rec room done, and they're like, "Surprise! What do you think?" And she just goes, "Oh, hell no."
Oh, that's pretty neat. I'll have to check that out.
Because yeah, I mean, it's such a funny meme, and then like, if you and I were hired to be office decorators, it'd be three Argama and nail Argama shelves up there, and it's like, no, you don't understand. These are shelves, but they also double as art installations, and people will be like, "What the hell are you doing, putting toys on my walls?"
Yeah, that's the thing too, like, as I'm figuring out I haven't brought my Gunpla back in yet or any of my robot spirits, and I'm thinking, "How can I display as much as possible without taking up so much room?" I don't wanna feel claustrophobic, I wanna feel airy, like, I wish I had, like, a basement, like
Yeah.
because in Texas here, basements aren't really a thing where I
No,
live.
that's I,
I
I
know they are
remember
in other
that scene
parts.
from Pee-wee's Big Adventure. In the
Oh,
Alamo at the
yeah.
basement. There's no
Yeah,
basement at the
that's so
Alamo.
funny. That's funny because that's another Texas property that doesn't have a basement.
Yep.
No, but, yeah, I'm really rethinking, like well, let me ask you real quick. What percentage of the Gunpla or Gundam memorabilia you own is actually on display?
Um, Probably about 35% total.
Oh,
Now that said, it's split about 15% here and then, 20% over in the garage where, it's like I really need to just migrate my studio and my desk and everything in there. But, like you, I need a good excuse to kind of reset and redo everything. So, please
yeah.
flood, please flood, please flood.
Well, and also, I think we talked about before, like, as fall has finally come for sure, like, for real, like, sometimes there's that feeling of change anyway, and I think it's always good to embrace it and just, like, yeah, what are some little things you can do to change, things around the house, or whatever?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but would you be comfortable where you live working out of your garage year round?
I think so. It's
Oh.
I think because I have a window unit like AC in there, and I have
Oh,
a
nice.
dehumidifier. It's like human beings are so weird because it's you need a humidifier where you sleep, but you need a dehumidifier in areas like garages and basements where and because I've got the guitar back here and I have other guitars in the garage, it was always trying to manage moisture control over there to protect wood and just kind of keep
Yeah.
things from getting mildewy and moldy in there. So, I mean, yes, I think it would be comfortable enough, but I would be most concerned about things like the resin pours that I do, the 3D printing, which, all of that stuff is very temperamental when it comes to temperature.
Yeah.
So, I've had 3D prints fail on me during colder months because the garage is not climate controlled the way that the rest of the house is. So,
Yeah, in Texas, where I'm at, like, the summer months, you can't be in the garage. You
no.
just it's like I'll run in there to grab some like, actually, the past few weekends, my brother has been coming over, we've been jamming in the garage because 'cause
Oh,
I've been
that's awesome.
reorganizing again, and I got my drums set up in a way where it doesn't take up room, and then I just pull out one of the cars or one we have one, the car, he comes in with his guitar, yeah, we just jam, and it's like, "Wow, this is what I've been missing," but
It's so
and,
awesome.
I mean, I do have a fan that I installed on the wall right next to me on the drum set, and it points down at me. It's like an
Perfect.
oscillating fan.
So,
But
yeah.
yeah,
So the
it would
throne
be
is
cool.
covered, but
Yeah. It would be cool if long term I could make use of the garage that way. So, yeah, it can only be for storing, not for, like, I guess, live working at all times. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for now. I feel like we can make those changes to our
Yeah, I
respective work studio arrangements.
think so.
But yeah, so we do have a fun show in store for you today. I have a lot of things that I'm going to be showing off today, mostly so Adam's going to be super bored just looking at plastic all day. But before we do get started, I wanted to share with you guys this sort of insight that I had into, I guess I would call it consumerism and like, voluntary trades with people. And you see this a lot like in the employment market. Not that I'm looking for a job or anything. Um, but, basically what it comes down to is, people are willing to only, they're only willing to make a trade with someone. They're only willing to offer something if they feel like the thing that they're getting in return is worth more to them than the thing that they're losing. To sort of solidify that concept, like let's pretend I were a personal trainer. To me, your $100 is worth more to me than an hour of my time spending training you at the gym. Whereas to the person who's being trained, they would say, well, getting in shape is worth more to me than $100. So I would, they would pay 120, or I
Yeah.
would train them for 80, but we meet somewhere in the middle, and that's where we kind of agree that because value, or at least perceived value, is a subjective subject. There's
Yes.
no such thing as objective value because everyone's going to value things differently, right?
Yep. Mhm.
So that said, there's also the kind of hidden cost associated with that. Because let's say, for instance, I were a personal trainer, you would not pay me $100 because look at this dad bod, you know? So what people don't see is they don't see the hidden cost associated with the value of something, right? So if I had six pack abs, 22-inch arms, that sort of thing, if I had the body, if I had the presentation that says I'm worth $100 or 120, 140, however much, then you're willing to pay that much to look like me, right? Now, what you don't see is that hidden cost of like, well, then I had to spend months, maybe even years of my time getting that gym body in order to sell you on the idea that I can give you that same gym body. And so people don't really make that connection. They think, oh, I'm only paying $100 for the hour session with this guy. It's like, no, 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 you're paying $100 for the 8 months that that person got into shape in order to show you that they could get you into shape. Now, why does this matter? Why am I even bringing this up? What's important about this to us? You know, I need to stay off of the Bird app is basically what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Every time I hear Gundam fans bemoaning things like Gundam games and P-Bandai, I'm reminded of these ideas of value and price and cost associated with things. And generally speaking, people like to dump on P Bandai, as Adam and I, call us shills, call us apologists of P Bandai. But, I think you and I both agree that like we don't have a problem necessarily with the price point or the model behind P Bandai, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, hey, if that's how we get the kits.
Right. Just give us the kits. Um, so, when you talk about a model kit is worth 25, 35, $45, whatever you associate that with. First of all, I'm willing to bet that anyone who bought it would be willing to pay $10 more. The only reason they bought it is because they think that they're getting it for less than it's worth, right? Because that's the whole nature of voluntary transactions. But then what people fail to realize is all of that, again, hidden cost, because the manufacturing costs money, the marketing costs money,
Yeah.
the design of the kit itself costs money. So I mean, I've been critical of things like the P Bandai Zeta Plus, the C1 model, because it literally is just the Unicorn Zeta Plus with one extra sprue for the beam rifle.
Mm,
So that
yeah.
one,
There's some of that too, where it's
that,
almost like you think you're getting a new product. It's that perceived value, and then
yeah,
when you get it, you have your perceived value of the previous model, so then you can have your own subjective kind of like opinion on it. Yeah.
exactly. So and people tend to not see beyond that. So it's like they see oh, well, they're just overcharging me for this plastic kit. And it's like, well, they just know that A, they can't manufacture enough of them to offset the cost of designing the kit and putting it out. And then B, you know, as a result of them not knowing how much they can possibly sell of it, then they're going to produce it in limited quantities. It's just
Yeah. It's funny. I think it was another show of mine or yours we did, but where I brought up like those newer like retro gaming handhelds that people are using for emulation or they play.
yes.
That's the same thing there. They don't know how they're going to sell through. I also bought a vinyl record the other day that's going to be delivered here soon, and I've realized when searching for vinyl records that are like of video games, like represses or new presses that didn't exist, they also only can produce a certain amount because they don't know how it's going to sell. And then they
Yeah.
have to rent out the manufacturing facility and pay for the materials to manufacture it in the first place and ship it. So that's why I'll
Hmm.
see them sold out and then they're more expensive online from people that already own it because there's nothing the manufacturer can do about that. It's like
Yeah.
you can only produce so many. Yeah.
And that's what's beautiful about like crowdfunding campaigns and P-Bandai
Oh yeah.
is, and just pre-ordering in general, is that, you know, you can make something available and you can gauge interest before you go to the manufacturing stage. And we see it all the time with P-Bandai, how they, you
Yeah.
know, they put out the GM Spartan 3 times,
Yeah.
you
3 different
know,
times, yeah.
because they, you know, they knew it was going to be popular. They didn't know how popular. And so, I mean, I think that the demands are being met, but,
Yeah. It's funny because we would talk about board games on your
mm,
show often. I'm
yeah.
not too familiar with them, but you are, and we've talked about those getting crowdfunded, and sometimes it's like, "What? A board game of this?" And so just
Yeah.
recently, a remake of a Ninja Turtles board game from, like, 1985 or something was kickstarted and funded in 4 hours.
That's
Which
awesome.
there's a lot of interesting things there. 1, being funded in 4 hours. That's pretty quick. 2,
Yeah.
it's the Ninja Turtle property, which lately they've been gearing it towards kids, but a board game and the legacy of it is geared toward adults.
Yeah,
So,
TMNT seems to be going through something of a renaissance.
yeah,
You know,
it's
I
weird.
mean, my nephew went as Michelangelo for
Oh,
Halloween, and I'm
sweet.
like, it blows my mind because like I was Raphael when I was a kid,
That's
and
awesome.
you know,
Yeah, I did. I think I was Michelangelo myself, or that or Leo. I know I had a Leo sword, but
nice.
it is interesting because like kind of what you're getting back to. There's these weird niche things sometimes that could be created. A
Hmm.
remake of an '80s Ninja Turtle board game. Are people going to buy it? Well, let's crowdfund it.
Yeah,
And
let's
sure enough, so they
let's
know
gauge
when they're
interest.
making maybe the add-ons, the expansions, they don't need to worry about crowdfunding. They're like, this is how many sold through. We probably know how much of the add-ons we can.
Right, because then it's like, well, if only 50% of the people who bought the core game are going to buy the add-ons, then we're only going to make half as many of the add-ons as we do for the core game.
Oh, and like with the GM Spartan going 3 times, they'll see how many people are buying the core game through the Kickstarter and be like, "Oh, actually, we can sell this. Maybe we could do a limited run for retail." Because
Hmm.
we do know that this is popular to an extent that we can pay these manufacturing costs that maybe is extra from the kickstarting campaign, and that will allow more people to get their hands on it. Yeah.
And that's and again, this is only possible because people are willing to put up the money ahead of time. The problem is how many people have been burned, how many companies have been burned, I should say, where they gauge interest by just asking people like, "Hey, would you like us to make this?" And they get a lot of yeses, but a lot of yeses doesn't mean a lot of purchases, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. That happens with movies and video games where people like I remember Mirror's Edge, people wanted a sequel so bad. It finally came out, no one cared, even though it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I I think it's like that vocal minority that
Hmm.
happens. It happens with negative and it happens with positive.
Absolutely.
And it's something Shirt Lad's bringing up because I like to see all sides of this. He says I'd
Yeah.
have less issues with P Bandai if it wasn't for the limited availability shipping coverage of kits and certain lackluster colors. But I think that goes back to it's like they know they can release something, but it's going to have to be limited. It's the only way they can afford it. So it's
Hmm.
either they don't do it at all or they do it and it's just like, sorry, not everyone will have the chance to get this. It's
True.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's, that's a whole other conversation to have, is distribution, right? Because like,
yeah.
we are very lucky here in the US. You and I can get our hands on anything, but the European market is very difficult to get your hands on Gunpla. I think as we've
Mm.
discovered from Discord friends, we've seen that like people have a hard time getting things in like Australia or the Philippines, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
Um
even Canada to a
which, oh
degree.
my
Yeah.
gosh, I can't believe I forgot to do this. Speaking of Discord, today's episode is actually brought to you guys by a friend of the channel and supporter, Ultronymous.
Oh,
Shout out to
Ultron.
Ultronymous.
Shout out.
I've been getting a lot of these things about doing ad reads lately, and I'm like, I'm not gonna shill for HelloFresh or Raid Shadow Legends, but I will say I'm gonna start doing this from now on. Is every week we're gonna shout out a Patreon member, somebody who actually supports the channel, because this show is really brought to you by you guys. You guys support the
Oh,
channel, so hit me up if
great
you
idea.
are if you're a patron. Hit me up, and we'll organize an ad read. Ultronymous has been a friend of the channel and supporter for a long time. Obviously his channel's linked down in the description below. Check him out because he does zero commentary playthroughs of video games. So if you're a content creator yourself and you're looking for footage of video games, why play through it yourself when you can just lift it from an Ultronymous video?
Yeah, and it's funny, the more I watch his content, the more stuff I find that he's into that I am. Like, he was streaming kind of a more rare or lesser played Castlevania game, or yeah,
Yeah,
he put up a video for that, and I was like, "Oh, sick," and he got me to play it. I downloaded it's on the Xbox. It's like the old school stuff, but kinda made in a it's actually made like a roguelike, like Rogue Legacy.
that's pretty
Um,
sweet.
but, yeah, that's a good idea that you've just come up with. This, shouting out supporters. Autonomous, a good yeah, good person to shout out. And Shirt Lad is saying raid Hatter Legends.
Yes. Click the link below for your 50 free tokens. But yeah, I'm glad that Shirt Lad's in the chat today, because obviously we are going to be covering a gift that he sent me, which
Ooh.
straight from side F, the beloved Hobby Hizack high grade kit, the Advance of Zeta reboot version, which is funny because it's like they don't even have a regular Char's counterattack version, right?
Which is weird, but also that is, like, sick.
It's freaking awesome.
AOZ
So
reboot, Hizack, like,
So it
hobby.
is snapped together. We're going to be looking at it in detail here, and I'm going to show off a couple of other things that I've 3D printed. But before we get into that, I feel like I need to spoil some things for you, because behind me, I've been hiding something. Again, another gift from a supporter that is finally ready to
Oh,
debut. The Neo Xeon refit bound dock in what I guess is custom Dom colors, but I'm very excited to show this guy off. It's finally finished. I just need to take some glamour shots and put together a little video for you guys, and hopefully that will be up on the channel. Well, he lost his beam rifle.
yeah, happens to the best of
It
them.
happens, yeah. And
But
that's what happened to poor Jared Mesa.
oh, like how you added that in. You know what would be cool? I don't know if I've seen any of your photography, so you might actually be really good at it, but it would be awesome, even though it would be scary to do, like, to ship it to me, and then I do, like, a whole photo session,
That would be pretty cool.
but I'm always scared of shipping completed kits. Like, I had something sent to me from Australia that was completed, and parts of it did come apart. I mean, I was able to fix it, but I'm always scared, especially if it's a custom like that. So, if I happen to be in your neck of the woods with my camera,
Yeah. Yeah,
because you know
well,
what? There's
oh, go ahead.
sorry, I'm so excited about this because you bring up a really good point. I feel like there's so many awesome, Gunpla customs that people make, but they're not photographers.
Yeah.
They're good at and it's like, man, I wish I could help that person and, like, take badass shots with the lighting done in a certain way, maybe some photoshopping that's shown in action, so
Yeah.
then they can use that
Absolutely.
to market their kits or their
Yeah,
customs.
that's a very good point, because I feel like there are a lot of Gunpla tutorials when it comes to the actual customization. There's a lot of toy collector tutorials and things like that. People don't really, I think, address what you said, the the toy photography aspect of it. You see a
Mhm.
lot of great toy photographers. You are one. Sank Kingdom does a lot of awesome Photoshop work. Zeonic Shadow as well does a lot of awesome Photoshop work on his. One of my buddies, Drakmore Digital, he does some great toy photography. But
Ian has been doing some stuff lately too.
oh
A mo
yeah,
Yeah,
Ian as
yeah.
well
He
does
has
some
the
awesome
dioramas.
work. And in fact, Rogue New Type just posted those
Oh,
images of
Odessa.
his his
Yeah, I'm
Odessa
gonna show that off
diorama.
tomorrow, actually, during the live stream. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if you don't do it, then I think somebody in our little neck of the woods, community wise, should put together some tutorials about how to achieve good
I'm I will do that
toy
because I think I
photography.
did one very early on, but it was just more about the photoshopping aspect.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? So I will say this here, and I'll probably say it tomorrow too. So if anyone out there has some Gunpla they put together and they wish they could get some glamour shots, feel free to send to me because I would even do a video where I'm rating it, but it would be like an positive. It's not like I don't need to
Yeah.
critique it. It's just like, look at
Oh my
this. This
God,
is a
these
neat
nub
idea.
marks.
Yeah. Look at the nub marks down there. What is this? 0. I'm gonna smash it live. Now that'd
Here's
be
your toy
sad.
photography.
Dude, that's a good idea. If the video is people send me a Gunpla to review, and if I don't like it, I smash it live. No, that's not gonna happen. But that would be funny.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, so I mean that I could use some tips. My Gunpla photography is okay, but it could always be better for sure. And again, like I said, it's a shame to me because there are so many fantastic builders out there who probably don't get as much recognition as they should
Yeah.
because the photography is lacking. Um,
I agree. I see it all the time. That's like my number one thing when I'm looking at other people's builds. I'm like, man, I wish this was shot a certain way. You know,
yeah, if only I
it
had my
reminds.
hands on it, I would.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because when I first got back into collecting stuff, this was like years ago. It happened to coincide with a time where my kids were just old enough where I had more time for hobbies, and I was buying the Star Wars figures, and
Yeah,
taking pictures of that was a big deal for me. It was like I liked collecting them, but I also liked recreating the scenes, and then from that I saw how big the toy photography thing is on YouTube, and it's or on Twitter, everywhere online.
yeah,
And it's but what I've noticed is it's a separation of the Gunpla building and the toy photography. Because a lot of times a toy isn't necessarily a Gunpla and vice versa. It can be,
true.
but
Yeah. Yeah, I think you'll find a lot better photography from like the toy collector side of things, just because they're not focused on the model building aspect of it, right? You
yeah.
see people that take pictures of, like Marvel Legends figures that look really good. Transformers collectors tend to be really good toy photographers. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's
but
right.
uh, but it's just one of those things. Like as a content creator, we have to level up all of our skills. You know.
Yeah, and sometimes pick and choose. Sometimes there's some things that you can't do everything, even though you want to. You know?
Exactly. That's where it's like I wish that I had a partner that I could work with. And this is one of the things that's like I envy about like the Gunpla sisters is
Oh
one builds and the
yeah.
other paints, and it's like, oh man, if I could just have like my little brother build and I'd paint them, it'd be game over. I wouldn't have a backlog.
That is a really cool point because there are some people that just like to build and some people that just like to paint. And if you can get to the painting faster, or you just have to worry about building and someone's gonna make it, yeah, that's a really cool. Could be a cool system.
Yeah,
Think about this: a website. It's a database that you can sign in and register, and you could be partnered up with someone that wants to work on a certain kit. One person
there you
builds, they
go.
send it to the person to paint.
You are talking about like this is what Gundam Metaverse should have been. Is like
Yeah,
the
there you go.
GBN Gunpla Builders Network,
It's all
where
collaborative.
it's,
Yeah, yeah, that's a thing.
what a
That,
thought. Brilliant.
yeah.
Let's put our marketing brains together on that. But
Yeah, I
in the
think we need to talk
meantime,
about that later. Yeah.
I do want to show off the build here. So let me hop into our little screen share, and I've got a new camera set up here, so
Ooh.
hopefully it's all right to you guys. We have snapped together this Hobby Hizack Advance of Zeta reboot version. I haven't applied any stickers or anything like that because, as you guys know, I'm probably gonna paint it anyway. So, um, yeah, I honestly don't know what I'm going to do with this kit. And again, we can have that conversation about value because the kit doesn't come with any weapons or accessories because it's the hobby Hizack.
Hobby.
You
Yeah.
only ever see it in Char's counterattack for a split second when
Yeah.
Quest is kind of dancing around in it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love the proportions and the scale of this kit.
Me
It's
too.
got some excellent posability. It's got that ab crunch that has been very popular with high grades lately, where the sort of abdomen connector is actually in the front of
Oh,
the
yeah, like, it pops in, like, horizontal?
exactly.
Yeah.
It's got like a double ball joint,
Yeah.
so that's pretty sweet. And then just to give you guys an idea of like the level of chonk that we're looking at here, I mean, I wish that I had my high grade Hizack that I've been working on the custom, but it's kind of packed up over there. So I do have a Zaku 2 F2, and I mean, just look at the size of the legs and the thrusters and the shoulder armor for comparison.
Yeah.
This thing is pretty beefy.
Yeah, it's interesting how the F2 seems to go and some of the designs did this, where they went to kind of the leaner sort of look.
Yeah,
With
definitely.
with the hobby Hizack, does it share all the same parts as the normal Hizack, or are there differences?
I think it actually has zero of the same parts. Like all of the design has been kind of done from the ground up. The backpack is different. The skirts are different. The thrusters, as you can see, these the leg pipes.
Yeah.
You know how most kits usually have the leg pipes are kind of that dual, at least in the high grades, they have like that dual hook system. This one actually has a ball joint on the end that
Oh.
snaps into the inner frame there. And then it's actually kind of interesting because you can actually remove this whole piece of the leg and it doesn't look like, I mean, that just kind of looks like a bare Hizack
Yeah.
leg. Like it's
Okay,
not.
that's interesting because I don't think the high grade Hizack looks great, even though I like the Hizack.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like this probably, if I were to take those thrusters off the side of the leg, it probably looks more like the regular Hizack than.
Now, and Talos is actually saying that, and luckily Talos is here to provide his wisdom,
There we go.
that the the AOZ hobby Hizack version is actually larger than the normal hobby Hizack. So I
There
guess
you
that kind of
go.
makes sense then.
See, and then so part of me, the problem that I'm having here is that as I'm looking at this, I find it very difficult to justify making my pre-production Hizack custom out of the regular Hizack because if we think about it, this basically is that pre-production Hizack. Like if I just slap a Xeon style shoulder shield, like that's the pre-production Hizack.
Ah, yeah. I do like the proportions on that a lot.
Yeah, and I love the ball joint that is in the shoulder. It's like it actually offers a whole range of posability for the shoulder armor, which, you know, as you and I have built Zeta kits together, we know that it's difficult to pose some of these kits sometimes when they have oversized shoulder armor,
Yeah.
but this one is a
It-
lot more flexible and allows you to get a decent range of motion. So I mean, do I oh, and not to mention the pipes are already the correct color for the pre-production Hizack. So it's like, do
okay.
I abandon the other Hizack and just basically turn this one into the pre-production one since all I have to do is change the backpack a little bit and add a shoulder shield? Or do we do
Yeah,
something a little more fun with this?
because then technically it's the correct proportions. If
Right.
it's
There's
you know
so
what?
much less plastic work involved.
Okay, so here's another thing. Like, I love the look of that or the colors,
Yeah.
of that other hobby Hizack or that Hizack, that the Zeta Hizack, Advanced Zeta. Um, but it's funny because these are the more childlike colors, what's used with, like, the original Gundam, but it still looks good.
Yeah.
It's interesting how I feel like this still looks very good, even if the colors are less grounded for military use, even though it is a hobby thing still. But I would even think a giant hobby mech wouldn't necessarily be like bright, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
primary
wouldn't it get
colors.
dirty? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. There's that too.
um,
Yeah.
but it is kind of interesting to think about that, like that there's a whole genre of mobile suit that is dedicated to just, the hobbyists, the mecha. I mean, can you imagine saying like when you turn 16, asking your parents, hey, instead of a car, could you get me a Hizack that has been refitted without weapons? It's, just me and my buddies on the weekend. We're just gonna go fly the Hizack around, like,
Dude, think of that. I mean, I love that because think of if there was a movie like Fast and Furious, but instead of cars, it was mobile suits. But like it's illegal for people to use mobile suits and recreationally, like maybe in public areas. And so like the cops in their enforcement mobile suits are like chasing the hobby mobile suits. So there's no like fighting, or killing. It's more of just like the
like
racing, getting in trouble. The kid that just wants to race his mobile suit. I
yeah,
mean,
it's like
that could be a sick story.
Mobile Suit Gundam Tokyo Drift.
Yeah, yeah, that would be great. Side
uh
7 drift? I don't
that
know.
that'd be I could just imagine people like putting LEDs like underneath the leg skirts to
Yeah,
like and
that's what
putting
would be
like a
cool about
NOS
it,
tank
where
on the back of it.
think of build fighters, but it's still in universe, so people have all these, like, custom but they would be, like, old mobile suits, like, no one would have what's
Yeah.
modernly being used,
What's the
like
equivalent of a mobile suit Honda Civic?
a GM.
The GM or a Zanny?
Yeah, and then, oh, yeah, yeah, that and then, yeah, I would be cool, like, a bunch of people have, like, Zaku ones, like, that would be, like, Zaku ones and GMs everywhere because they're people got them, rebuild them, yeah, put, like, neon lights. Man, I gotta write all this stuff down. This is
This is I'm surprised that this isn't already a Gundam series.
yeah.
Like I don't want IBO. I don't want Witch from Mercury. I want Universal Century, like racer punks,
And I
like you
think
said.
yeah, it should take place after, um, I would say after Char's counterattack, so, like, the enforcement's not too worried too much about Xeon remnants. They know all these kids in their
Yeah,
older mobile suits, and and because it's more practical, I guess, if people are acquiring like older suits anyway for street use.
yeah. I mean, it's like recreational firearms in the U.S., right? Like you're not allowed to own
Yeah.
like a full automatic unless you have an FFL. I mean, you're not allowed to own the weapons. So all of them have had like their Vulcans have been stripped out and things like that. They are, as bare bones as you can get for a mobile suit. But oh man, I can just imagine the kind of like bullying and teasing that would go on. There's like the one kid that has a GM cannon that of
Oh
course
yeah.
has like the cannon has been removed and all of the Xeon kids are bullying him at school because, that's all he could
No, that
afford.
I love this idea. This
This is
is
such a
this.
great concept.
I Yeah, I think so, especially because of all the custom mobile suits that could exist.
Yeah,
But customized in a different way, not for fighting, but to show off and for speed.
right. Like decals on the side, like
Yeah,
flame
yeah.
decal. There's probably like a guy that runs an airbrush shop where he'll like, airbrush the Virgin Mary on the chest of
Yep. Yeah, there's
put a
man,
spoiler on the back of one of the
yeah.
Oh
I'm
man, this
liking
is
this
so much
idea.
fun.
We have so many ideas. I think it's good that we just put them out into the universe
Yeah.
because maybe someone will do it because I won't get around to it.
Exactly. If no one's going to do it as an anime series, then at the very least we can customize the kits and have that story associated with them because that's what I'm going to
That's
do for the Bondoc.
oh, doc,
And
yeah.
typically that's kind of what I do with all of my customs. Is like there's a story associated with, I generally don't make a custom just because I think it looks cool. Like I have a story associated with it, and maybe
Yeah,
that's just my weird headcanon.
no, I like that idea. Would you do it where on your website maybe you have a page that's it's like a one sheet that's just dedicated to the lore of it, and you have different pictures
That's not a bad idea. Maybe even create an account on the Gunpla wiki or the Gundam wiki and like add my own OCs to.
Oh yeah, yeah,
People be
yeah.
like, "Who the hell is this guy?" I don't remember him from the mangas. But yeah, before we do wrap up with the discussion of the Hobby Hizack, I do have to draw attention to the fact that it has that double jointed pelvis, which was started with the Zaku Kai, right? The one from War in the Pocket, because that was the first Zaku that like one of the poses that you wanted to recreate was the Zaku sitting down.
Right. Oh, good call.
And
That
so
that
it
I didn't
has that I don't know if let me remove the leg so you can see what I'm talking about here. So you can see that the let's see if I can get this in the camera shot. So you can see that the leg joint is actually on a slider, and both of the legs can slide forward into a seated position, which I think is very cool.
it is.
I think that more mobile suits need to employ this technology. Although it's kind of tricky because, you know, the leg joint itself is on a peg, and then the seated mechanic is on a peg, so you're kind of like double pegged. I don't.
And does it get in the way of the skirts? How's the skirt?
The skirts can kind of flop up, so
Oh,
you
okay.
know that
Cool.
is the Hizack in seated position. Just an interesting.
Yeah, I think if sometimes when there's certain articulation missing, I forgive it because like, okay, is that practical or not? But I think the sitting position seems practical.
Especially for
Um,
something like the Hobby Hizack, because it,
yeah.
you know, again, it's
I mean, how easy really is it to get in and out of a mobile suit? I think I would be sitting it down all the time.
yeah, yeah. You and I had this discussion before when
Yeah,
we were talking about like the Musai launching and like having
yeah.
to get in, you know, prone position to actually board a mobile suit. Now that said, I understand that I am probably going to anger some viewers because I built some things out of order, right? Like Zionic Shadow sent me the bound dock, built the bound dock. Shirt Lad sent me the Hizack, and I did build that before building this. So Goose, if you're
Oh,
watching, it's just because the Hobby Hizack is slightly smaller and less complex than the Zoid's um Geno Breaker. But
that is
so far
cool.
I've finished the head on this guy, and the level of detail in this kit is kind of absurd.
Oh, man, I keep forgetting I wanna grab one of these.
Oh
When you
yeah.
were building it, did you happen to come across if it had, like, a cockpit and a pilot?
No pilot.
But it has a cockpit?
But it does have the cockpit in
Cool,
there.
cool.
So yeah, although there are some parts that like, you know, I wish that they were a little bit more descriptive. As much as I sang Kotobukiya's praises on their instruction manual and everything, there are some things like, for instance, if I can pop off the lens here. So like the eye design of this, let me actually just let's see if I can get it out of the shadow here. So the lens here is like a clear plastic part
Hmm,
that pops off. And then we actually have the gray plastic here, and then there's a clear effect part piece for the eye. So what they didn't specify in the instruction manual is that there are actually two clear effect part piece sheets specifically for the eye. So they have a red one and a clear one. Now, the weird thing about it is that underneath that red clear plastic piece, it's just red plastic underneath anyway. So I can't understand why you would ever use the clear plastic one when you have the red ones. It's
yeah,
just one of those. It's awesome that they give you the option. It's kind of like the Hades slash
yeah.
exam systems in Gunpla kits. But yeah, it was weird to me because I accidentally built it with the clear ones, and then I found the red one later, and I was like, wait a second, it has the same names, like the same, like the runners are, they're both called
Oh,
U. It's not like
you
U1 and U2. It's just like U, and I'm like, well, what if I screwed up and had put in like one red eye, one clear eye? I don't know.
yeah,
It was a weird thing. So I
interesting.
wish that the instruction manual had been specific and said like, you know, either one of these will work. But
Would you say the manuals are easier or harder to decipher than the Bandai ones? Or the Gundam ones, I should say.
I would say that they are pretty easy to follow. But the runners themselves, let me see, I've probably got one here. The runners themselves, it's actually very difficult to identify which runner you're looking at. Because, like, for instance, see if I can. So we've got our 172 scale, and then in Japanese, I assume it says Genobreaker repackaged version, and then it has a Japanese character here. And that is what's used to identify this particular sheet. Now, on other ones, here's where it gets weird, is you'll have this exact same tab, and then like somewhere down here in the center will be another tab that says C. And it'll have like the letter in English. So, like I said, it's not, it's just weird.
Yeah, it's kind of like they haven't evolved it in the way that Bandai has with their Gunpla.
Yeah, because we've talked about that before, like how a lot of the recent Gunpla manuals look fantastic. They have like colored pages, you know, they've gone from line art to 3D renders, and that's always very helpful because you can identify the parts a lot better. Man, see, the glare on that lens is aggressive when you catch the light just right. But I do think it's very cool that it has those features.
Yeah.
So this kit is so far has been awesome. The teeth are extremely sharp. there are no safety spikes here like you would find on a Gunpla kit, where like the V fins have like the little safety nubs.
The other little tabs on it they have to cut off. Yeah.
But that's cool. Something else that I wanted to share with you guys today, aside from that, because obviously, again, that's another sponsored build that I'm putting together that I don't know what I'm going to do with yet. So yeah, let me know in the chat what you guys think, whether I should go take the hobby Hizack and make that into the pre-production Hizack, or if I should do something a little bit more fun with it. Obviously I can, you know what, I'll do the same thing I did with the bound dock. Keep an eye out on Twitter, Instagram, Discord. I'll put out a poll, and we'll let the viewers decide what happens to this poor guy. I feel like Sid from Toy Story, you know.
Yeah,
I don't believe that man's ever been to medical school.
Although I might have a unpopular take, but I almost feel like you should just keep it as is and just give it a nice top coat.
I'm glad you mentioned that because
only because it's such a rare Gunpla in a way, right?
That's a good point.
Is it?
Yeah, I would feel more comfortable about customizing something like, a Zaku 2F2, something that's not going to be a limited edition type.
Yeah. Kit. And I was going to check real quick to see, like, could you buy it right now if you wanted to? Oh, and yeah, it looks like you can.
What is it, about like $45-50?
Well, you could pre-order it right now on P-Bandai. It's $32, so that's good to know. I mean, plus shipping, and that's not going to be out until January. But then I'm seeing $370. Okay, yeah, P-Bandai is the place to go.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
So I am glad that you mentioned top coat, because I need to share with you guys the absolute glory of top coating things. I went ahead and did some 3D prints over the last couple days, and I have been experimenting again with clear 3D print resin. So here what I have are the canopies for the Age of Mecha Teco Toys mechs. And this is the first time that I've ever done something like this, where I've actually mixing build. Like, I took some of my plain ceramic gray resin and I'm combining it with the clear resin in order to get like that, multi-component effect. I think it looks really freaking cool.
Dude, it does. I mean, it looks just like they produced that, they manufactured that and then sent it to you.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm definitely going to do a few builds with these guys and paint them, and what's interesting is actually it's not designed to, like, if you look on the Teco Toys website, the canopy is actually like sealed, like it's not supposed to be clear. But I just thought it looked like a jet, so I was like, well,
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
I'm
I
gonna
think
just.
that's the way to go about it. Yeah.
But yeah, I did want to point out. So here I've got two of the 3D printed canopies, and I did a mix of clear and blue resin in order to get this unique kind of greenish color.
Oh, yeah.
So this one that I'm holding with the tweezers is straight off the printer and cured. But this one I hit with a little bit of top coat, and look how much clearer it is. Like, it's fascinating to me that with the top coat, the clear resin looks clearer than the cloudy, fresh printed resin.
That is interesting.
And that's
Yeah,
the
I
only
don't
difference between the two.
that's yeah, it's interesting.
And
Hmm.
that's not even a full gloss coat. This is a semi-gloss clear coat.
Hmm.
So it just goes to show that, like, you can always improve the look of a clear resin piece with with a bit of that top coat. Top coats are important.
Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, top coats are. I mean, there's when I was getting down my Gunpla and I would like, wow, this looks great. And this looks like crap, but the good one had a top coat.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm definitely going to make like a little fleet of these guys.
That's
I
sick.
actually have another body on the printer right now, and then like I went ahead and I figure if we're gonna have a fleet of mechs, we probably need like you know
Oh,
some little
that is
people to
sick.
go with them. I was like, well, I'm gonna feel really dumb if I only print like 4 canopies on my build plate. So it's like I put the canopies on there, and then I loaded it up with little soldiers. I'm like, this is gonna be pretty sweet.
Are those soldiers from your other thing you had, or are they from the Teco Toys
These
line?
are from the Teco Toys line.
Oh, wow.
I believe this one is a police officer, the one that has like the shotgun, and then the one that's holding the rifle is supposed to be one of the pilots of. Oh, geez. Here we go. This guy is supposed to be one of the pilots of the Vulture mech. So this is
Mm.
actually cool. These are from the like 1/87th scale pocket mechs line that Teco Toys does. They do like a 1/35th scale, like a big mech, but
Oh, dang.
I thought that the pocket mechs were just a little cooler.
Yeah, that stuff is awesome. Easier to store
Yeah.
when you have to
Which,
put
as
them
we've talked
away.
about, storage is an
Yeah,
issue.
I know.
But yeah, so like I said, invest in some top coat, especially gloss if you're going to go with a clear resin piece. I tend to do the matte coat on Gunpla and like on
Yeah,
the mech body, like the hull. But yeah, a little bit of top coat goes a long way.
yeah. Man, looks good.
So that is all that I really had to share today.
Cool.
Just a couple of cool builds. I like I said, I really love the proportions and the articulation, everything about the Hobby Hizack. It does lack accessories and weapons, but that's canonically
And
correct. So what are you
yeah,
gonna do?
yeah, exactly.
That's why I think it's important to pick up things like the Zaku 2 F2 high grade, because it comes with enough weapons to drown someone with, because it's got like the Zaku machine gun, it's got the bazooka, it's got the MMP-80, like the
Oh,
smaller
nice. Yeah.
machine gun. So you actually get a lot of accessories with the Zaku 2 F2. It's like the
Hmm.
Xeon version of the ground GM or ground Gundam, because like
Oh, that
it,
it comes with all that stuff.
oh
Yeah,
yeah, those ground Gundams come with so many goodies. It's
I know.
you're pretty
Yeah,
spoiled. But yeah, like I said, that's all I've got for today.
cool.
Man, am I forgetting anything, Adam? I feel like I'm wrapping up early, and
No, I think this was just a very productive stream, not just to partake in, but you have been productive.
man, I'm trying. We'll see,
That's pretty
we'll
awesome.
see how long I can keep this grind going and like not talking to people. I
Yeah.
just I feel bad. I'm like, every time I pick up my phone, I'm like, oh man, I need to return this text, but like,
Yeah. Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
I feel bad
um,
too, man.
But yeah, I've got some other things cooking in the studio, the shop, the workshop. I don't know what should I start calling my garage, since it's where I do all of this work.
Midnight Lounge.
There. Oh man, that just rolled right off the tongue. You didn't even
I don't know
think
how that
about it.
happened,
It's just
but
right there for us.
yeah.
Um Awesome. Yeah. And again, like I said, this episode brought to you by Ultronomous. Check out his link down below after the stream ends. Watch you some nice relaxing game footage.
Yeah.
And of course we had a video from Adam this morning, which was pretty sweet.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So 5K giveaway, giving away a Strike Freedom Master Grade Extreme.
Yeah, the
So
MGEX.
yeah, the MGEX. If you're interested, just comment on that video. Yeah, went up today. Not a typical lore video, but just due to all this stuff going on in the house, I kind of had to limit the research I was doing. So
Hey, totally understandable. And again, congrats on 5K. And
thank you.
that kit was actually donated by
Yeah,
Ash.
Ashley,
Yeah.
the social media coordinator for Gundam Explained. Yep.
So yes, thank you, Ash, for
Very
your
nice. Yeah.
generosity, because that's an amazing gift to
Yeah, and I linked to her social in the video description. So yeah, check that out. Give her a follow.
Yeah, absolutely. She's great.
Yeah.
Sweet. And then of course we've got the Gundam Explained show tomorrow, right?
Yep.
Sweet.
I
Well,
haven't figured out a time yet. I'll have to get with you because my wife is out of town, so I have to do some of the driving
man.
around Thursday evening.
So you mean to say that you have daddy duties this time?
Yes, and it's all of them, even the little animals that
Oh
get
man.
fed and walked. So
Oh,
yeah,
Godspeed with that.
yeah.
No, my wife's off tomorrow, so hopefully I will have pretty open availability
Oh,
to
okay.
to
Yeah,
stream. So yeah,
we
I
can work
can
something out.
work with your schedule,
Yeah,
and we'll make it happen. But yeah, thank
cool.
you guys so much for chatting with us, keeping it lively.
Yeah,
I will definitely review the chat and the comments to see. I do see Hizack flight type, which I think is a sweet
yeah.
concept. I'm gonna have to look into doing something like that. And yeah, thank you guys so much. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day. We'll catch you tomorrow.
Yep. See y'all.
Cheers.